Good morning and welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. We're going to talk about politics a little bit. I'm going to try to be uplifting, but this is a little bit of a warning video. We have hit politics season, campaign season. There is voting happening. There's a lot of stuff going on. And it looks like there's been some verifiable, real issues with election integrity, and there's a lot of distrust in the country, the United States, about that. There's a lot of people who are basing their trust on the elections on their desired outcomes instead of caring about the process and the long-term consequences. So there's that. There's reporting. There's violent crime. Senseless violent crime is on the rise. That's part of the current economy and recession, which is another problem with politics because it's being reported as the best economy ever, which it only can look that way if you're like in the top 20% of the laptop class. Like if you're out there actually buying eggs, milk, meat, gasoline. You know, I live 50 miles from a decent store. 60 miles, you know, that's a lot of gas, especially when gas goes up to $5 a gallon. That's a huge deal. You know, all this stuff is impacting people, and it's impacting people and causing a lot of stress. Economic stress drives most domestic violence, in fact, you know. This whole economic stress thing is causing a lot of violent crime. Outbursts, and that happens. You know, we know that we've been through recessions, we've seen this before. We know it happens. It's sad and everything, but we know that it happens. In fact, you can track abundance and murder rates in the United States from the 1600s, and it's really interesting to look at the numbers, and it has nothing to do with most of the stuff that you think or that you're told that it has to do with. It has nothing to do with guns, knives, inner cities, whatever. It has to do with basically life comfort and abundance and economic stress. It tracks pretty well. It's pretty interesting. Of course, these senseless violent crimes are only being reported. The only ones that are being reported are the ones that are designed to divide and outrage and cause a problem, cause conflict and stress. You know, they're not being reported equally. They're not being reported as a thing. No one's working the problem. They're being reported very specifically to cause the most amount of outrage and get people to do certain things, think certain things, behave in certain ways. At this point, we have mainstream, regular parts of one side trying to outlaw and throw in prison the members of the other political party, and they're actually calling for this. This is a big deal, and I expect until November that's going to become a bigger deal, and that's something you need to watch because it's one of the triggers of needing to operate differently in society, in your life, if you're going to be independent, free, and pro-humanity, is when they start doing the single-party state and outlawing the other side, no matter whether you agree with the other side or not, or think they're both just arms of the same hydra, or whatever your thing is. When you get to that outlaw stage, things are really not going well, and it's time to look at some paths, some options, stay agile, you know, okay, keep things going, but realize that most of this is programmed. That whole drive to outlaw and to put in jail the opponents, political opponents, just because they're political opponents. The whole thing about labeling violent criminals as mainstream Republicans, for example, or, you know, equating Antifa with the rest of the Democrats. The whole purpose of that is to drive division and outrage, and that's not good. That's not good for you. It's not good for anyone else, but it's being driven. It's being propagandized. It's being put out there. This is not a natural state of affairs. We live in a propaganda machine. It's not a natural state of affairs. So, don't get distracted. That's the message of the video. I've gotten distracted a little bit because some of the stuff it's very hard to avoid. You know, the Treasury Secretary wants eugenics for to control the economy. Oh, you know, I'm being told that the inflation that I'm feeling isn't really inflation, or goes away if someone else pays a punitive tax or something. You know, none of it makes any sense. None of it works the problem. None of it identifies problems correctly. None of it looks at what's actually going on. And it's a propaganda environment. Both directions, all three directions, no matter which side you're on. This isn't about a side. It's about the propaganda. What you must accept is that it's propaganda. Whether you engage with it or not is kind of up to you. I think that there are limits to how much you can engage and maintain your spiritual health, your bliss, your path forward. So I'm limiting my engagement, but I'm trying to pay attention to just the little things that might affect my life. Like if I run out of gas completely and it's not available, I live 25 miles from a gas station, 60-ish miles from the closest actual store is a Walmart on the very edge of a town. It's not where I usually go, but that's the 57-mile mark, and that's another 10 miles to, you know, a real grocery store and other stuff. But you know, that's a big deal, especially with the dirt roads. I need to pay attention to if the gas is just not available. Something to think about. You know, you have to pay a little attention so you can see the signs and make sure that you know what's going on. Make sure you have, if you're me, make sure you have your water and your food stocks, and then you're all good to go. You know, I can fast for a while, but I'd rather fast by choice. It's mentally healthier to be like, yeah, I'm doing this by choice, rather than be like, oh yeah, I'm completely out of food and I have to walk 50 miles to get more. That's not where you want to be mentally, you know. The difference, there's no physical difference. You're fasting either way. It's your perception and your internal meaning. And that is the key to this whole political thing, is they're trying to put things in your mind in a certain fashion. They're trying to assign the meanings. And that is really, really fucked up. They're trying to take away your ability to assign meaning and assign the meaning for you. Psychologically, meaning comes before object. This is something we know. Humans have a very strange brain, mind, consciousness wiring, and we assign meaning before we assign object, and it's mind-blowing when you realize that that's actually how it works. But the meaning is yours. You are in charge of the meaning. Your reality is largely informed by your emotions, by your meaning, by your interpretation, by your assignment of stuff. And that is super important. Don't let them take that away from you. This whole political thing that we're going to have to deal with until November at least, probably January, is about putting meaning in your head and taking away your ability to determine meaning for yourself. Don't let them do that. Don't consume too much of the media. Stay positive. Remember that everything that you are getting reported, everything that is being reported for a purpose. And politics, for whatever reason right now, is all about negative. So it's all negative reporting. It's all the problems and the crises and the violence and the this and the that and the other bad people. None of it's positive. Find the positives. You have to find the positives if you want to experience the positives. So the best way to deal with that is to not listen to them at all. Cut off political reporting as much as you can. I am just trying to maintain just the little bits of awareness that tell me if a society is going to a place where I need to prepare differently for things. I've been in countries where there's been civil disorder, civil war, civil breakdown, whatever you want to call it. There are signs. Don't want to go there. Don't want to suggest that we're going there. There's nothing there, but the only thing I'm paying attention to right now is those little bits of signs. We've had a fantastic run for the past 50 years. Things have in the world have gotten so much better. Technology, everything. It's up to us to take control of that and make it abundant and positive. That is what we're doing. That's why people are out on homesteads. They're not on homesteads because they want to live more poverty. They're on homesteads because they want to live more freedom. So control the abundance, work with it, okay? That's the message. That's the thing. Just be careful. The next several months, it's primary season, it's election season. It's all going to be pretty weird. Don't ignore factors like electoral integrity is a really big issue, and some recent reporting and events and movies and video evidence and stuff is suggesting that we need to pay really close attention to it, because people in power, if you don't pay attention to them, will do things that people in power do. So pay a little attention to that, but don't let it get into fear-mongering, outrage, and partisanship. You want things to be integrous, but not... So the problem with the election integrity thing is that it depends on what side you're on. That's all that matters to most people. It doesn't matter if the processes are good and verifiable and chain of custody or whatever. That doesn't matter. The outcome is what matters, and it's fair if you win. That's not the way to look at it, and that's just something to pay attention to. Societies have cycles. This is one of the cycles. We may have to go through the full cycle, or we may bump up and spiral up a little bit and not have to go all the way down to Civil War stuff, whatever it is. Keep it positive, pay a little attention, don't be completely blind, unless you don't care. Like, if it has no bearing on your bliss, then that's fine. I am trusting the universe in a large part because I work with the universe, and I have my basic preparations. I know that I can survive pretty much whatever happens, so there's that. But I'm paying attention just enough. Very restricting myself a lot, but paying attention just enough to see if there's any danger signs. Anyway, I made this video because I've noticed over the past several days with the primary season and the increased reporting and the increased outrage reporting that everything right now is a political operation. All of the news is a political operation. It's designed to try to make you vote out of fear for one party or the other. Mostly for one party, because the media is operating that way. It's a propaganda game. We are in a propaganda environment. Minimize the propaganda. Minimize it. I noticed that it's crept into all of the feeds everywhere, so cut it out. Boom. Zero it. If you feel that you need to write about it or think about it, put it in a journal. Don't put it online. That's my suggestion for myself as well. Stay sideways and stay positive.